Hey, truth seekers, welcome back. Zach here. This video is about why Sherman Park of Milwaukee, Wisconsin has been targeted with the latest race war psychological operations. Since 2013, I have been exposing how the federal government, mainstream media, and city police departments are working together to create purposeful propaganda that is agenda oriented. In many of these shootings, they are police officers targeting young black men who are either unarmed or sometimes said to be armed but non threatening. We've gotten so many of these stories from the time of Trayvon Martin up to the present, they've almost become a monthly part of the news cycle. And in all of these stories, the same coding is present. What you need to know is the people who create the propaganda in the media, they are mostly Zionist Jews. And in Judaism, there's something called Kabbalah. It's Jewish mysticism, and it is a belief in numbers, numbers having magical powers. And interestingly enough, the word magic in gematria sums to 33. And in almost all of these race-based shootings, the number 33 is very central. We just said magic equals 33. So does Sherman for Sherman Park. So does race war. So does police. So do a number of the names of the victims you've heard about in the time of Trayvon Martin up to the present. Just for Trayvon Martin as an example, his initials, TM, T's the 20th letter, M's the 13th, TM is 33. His killer, George Zimmerman, G's the 7th letter, Z's the 26th. 7 plus 26 is 33. Trayvon Martin was buried March 3rd, 3-3, the same day Rodney King was beaten by the LAPD. Police equals 33, LAPD equals 33, race war equals 33, KKK equals 33. Beaten on 3-3, Trayvon Martin buried on that same date years later in history. This was CNN's reporting what it's like to be black in Milwaukee. In this video, we're going to talk about Sherman Park. We're going to talk about Sheriff Clarke. We're going to talk about other related shooting hoaxes such as Freddie Gray. Just realize that in my message, I'm not saying police aren't responsible for a lot of wrongdoing, a lot of racist actions, murder. Police get away with murder all the time in this nation. When they murder people, it never sniffs the media. Nobody ever hears about it. That's the difference between real police killings and these mainstream fiction stories that are made to provoke people and get a reaction. And remember, the reason they want the reaction is for the agenda. There's something called Blue Lives Matter right now that a lot of states are looking at. Louisiana was the first state to send the bill. It's about providing police with more body armor, more weaponry to protect them from threats. And in the Blue Lives Matter bills, it targets Black Lives Matter, saying they're a threat to police. Black Lives Matter, controlled opposition, run by the government, no different than the police are. So this story from CNN, it came August 16th. You know, they've had this struggle ever since the shooting just days ago on August 13th, late. August 16th is typically the 228th day of the year. And here's why that number 228 is so significant. United States of America in gematria sums to 228. So does the name Martin Luther King Jr. And so does the word death. And MLK is the only American to have a holiday named after him. And think about Black History Month, February 28th, the final day of the month, the final day of Black History Month, 2/28. Looks a lot like that number 228. None of this is coincidence. Remember, Martin Luther King Jr. was not born with that name. He was given that name later in his life. And the people who gave that name to him are the same people who abide by this number code. If you've never seen my work on MLK, Malcolm X, these men both assassinated by the same numbers at the same age, very important work. Right now, I'm just laying down an understanding of the number coding, how long it's been with us in this nation, what the significance of it is. This is a story coming out on the 228th day of the year, typically telling what what life is like in the United States for so many Black Americans. In this case, focusing on Milwaukee. At the time of the Freddie Gray story, the protests, the same type of stories in the media, the same type of statistics, the same type of cultural programming. That's what they do with these news stories. They take them and then they use them to program the public with stereotypes, constantly reinforcing things, bringing up the same old narratives, such as how many young black men don't have a father. In this case, it's the story of a young black man being killed who has a baby toddler. You know, the story is how another child's going to grow up without their father. Why in this case? Because he was supposedly murdered by the police. Notice this date, August 16th. It's also the day that leaves 137 days left in the year. If you saw my last video on the killing of Sylville Smith, very interesting name. His mother's name has gematria of 137. That's the 33rd prime number. Again, all of these race-based shootings come back to 33, Sherman 33, race war 33, police 33, masonry 33 as in Freemasonry, secrecy 33, Freemasonry, a secret society, KKK, 11 plus 11 plus 11. Think about what the KKK was. Men hiding themselves behind sheets, secrecy, masonry. White supremacist has gematria, just like Masonic, just like cross. Think about the KKK burning crosses. The headline, the way it's written, What's It Like to Be Black in Milwaukee, has the same gematria as Sherman Park, which is being targeted. What's It Like to Be Black in Milwaukee also sums to 331. The reflection of that number is 133, like government, like White House. This is a federal agenda. Think about Hillary Clinton, our next president, soon to be, how she had all those mothers up on the stage at the Democratic Convention, mothers for all the fake shootings, meaning crisis actors, liars, deceivers. And it isn't to say there aren't a lot of women in this world who've lost their children to needless police shootings. It's just to say that the women that were on that stage aren't part of that group. They're the gang that takes money to help create this federal propaganda. The number 331 is the 67th prime number, very important number to the Blue Lives Matter bill. Blue Lives Matter equals 67. It was signed on a date with 67 numerology. Sheriff Clarke went to the Republican convention and talked about Blue Lives Matter and spoke out against Black Lives Matter. Sheriff Clarke, who we'll be talking about, equals 67. Freemasonry sums to 67. Blood sacrifice, 67. George Washington, 67. What I'll say is if young men really are dying in these stories, what's going on is their parents are having their children ritually sacrificed. And I don't know if they're doing that for money because they don't like their kids, a combination of both. If kids really are getting killed, these parents are consenting to it. As we've pointed out, in a number of these shootings, the parents are connected to Freemasonry, from Trayvon Martin up to the present. Trayvon Martin's father, a master mason. That reporting from the night, they burned up the BP oil station. Probably one of the oil contractors profiting from the war already has the rebuilding contract. Destroy and rebuild. This is how this gang works. Order through chaos. Next, notice how Sherman Park in Pythagorean gematria sums to the same thing as prophecy. If you go back to the very first videos I made, from the beginning, I talked about the significance of the coding of 33 in race war and how so much of our media, so much of our nation's history has been coded from the book of prophecy, Revelation. The madmen, the banker tyrants who control media, who control our government, they are trying to fulfill prophecy. That's what bringing about the Zionist nation of Israel was. In the Jewish holy book, the next element in their prophecy is bringing about their Messiah. And recognizing that the New World Order is a Zionist, Masonic, Jewish world order, I imagine that someday there will be a one world government that is legitimate, in place, that might have an emperor for all of the world. And that very well might be their conceived Messiah. Anyhow, I just want people to understand what's going on in the world. The Zionist Jew banker tyrants are ruling. If you read Revelation, the book of prophecy at the end of the Bible, it says the false Jews will rule in the end times in mention of the Church of Philadelphia, the same name that is the original capital of this nation. And that's exactly who rules this nation. That's exactly who created this nation. The Zionist Jews, they hate people who aren't Jewish. They call them goy. They think of us as lessers, people who can be lied to, people who can be deceived, people who can be manipulated. And we're treated this way each day with their mainstream media. This article, it focuses on Valencia Morgan, the woman you see here in the yellow. What pops out about this right away is her yellow dress. I'm taken back to a year ago, Baltimore. There was the story of Baltimore mom. She was shown on the news beating her son, who was one of the protesters. She got to go before the cameras. We got to hear her story, her son's story. The media, using the story to push stereotypes. Young black mothers have to be strong with their children because so many of them don't have fathers. That woman a year ago was dressed in all yellow when she was on the TV. I don't think it's any coincidence. This sign here, it seems nice, free cupcakes, free hugs, but remember, this is all part of a staged media scene, and in these staged scenes, they code their signs. Free cupcakes has gematria 59, the number stamped all over black people, kill equals 59, Negro 59, Sylville Smith, who was shot supposedly equals 59. Free hugs has gematria 44 and 53. Shooting equals 44 and 53. This is after a shooting. Kill equals 44. Officer equals 44. Free cupcakes in simple English gematria also sums to 113, just like mainstream, just like dishonest, just like Bava Kama 113a says it's okay for somebody who's Jewish to lie to somebody who isn't. All these statistics in the article, most of them contrived just by the numbers. They give us this shot, all these armed, military-looking police, one unarmed black man, symbolic pose. Picture comes with a date with 59 numerology. What else? In this story, they tell the tale of a young woman, Neolina Poe, supposedly age 19. And let's just read what it says. Neolina Poe, 19, walked by the charred remains of the BP gas station Monday evening and joined a group of strangers holding hands. They bowed their heads and said a prayer behind the yellow police tape. Perhaps that's why they give us the yellow. It already has that, subliminal connection to police tape, crime scene, tragedy. There are killings every day. Little children are dying. There are no jobs, and there are some racist cops, she said. But we're killing each other, too. Asked if she planned to attend the protest later, she shook her head. I have a child to live for. Milwaukee is the 8th most violent city in the U.S. There were 7 violent crimes for every 1,000 people in 2015, according to FBI statistics. It had 145 homicides last year. So look, Neolina Poe very well could be a real young woman. And she could very well have a child at such a young age, as so many women do in this nation. The poorer the community, you see it. The younger the people in that community are reproducing. It's not just about race. The poorer the community, the more likely to have children at a younger age. The thing is, though, this character, Neolina Poe, this is a fictional character. You can just hear it. Neolina, that's a bullshit name. And look at how they coded it. Neolina equals 52, just like Sherman Park, just like prophecy. And Poe will automatically remind you of Edgar Allan Poe, Baltimore connections. This story, the latest shooting where we got a big protest, burning, looting story to go with it. A lot of parallels between this story and Freddie Gray. Neolina Poe, the small way, also sums to 43, just like Civil War, just like Charleston. Remember, the Freddie Gray shooting was a recreation in numbers of the Civil War. He was arrested April 12th. He died April 19th. The Civil War began in history April 12th in Charleston. The first death recorded in the war was April 19th in Baltimore, where Freddie Gray died, when gray coats got into an armed confrontation with protesters, first shots fired, resulting in deaths. Surrounding the Freddie Gray incident was the Walter Scott shooting on April 4th, 4/4, the 47-year anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King. And after the Freddie Gray story was the June 17th shooting at the Charleston Church. Charleston, Baltimore, Charleston. Those are the cities to start the Civil War. Charleston has gematria 43 and 52, I should mention. Neolina Poe, the young 19-year-old already with the child. Also in the article, they bring up a James Miller, talking about how easy it is to get a gun, way easier than finding a job, he says. Miller, another name with 33 gematria. If you missed my video on Sylville Smith, let's again review the names. Sylville Smith equals 59, just like Negro, Slave, Blues, Rasta, Motown Records came out in 59. Number stamped all over black people worldwide. They say AIDS was discovered in 59 in the Belgian Congo. Belgian Congo equals 59, just like Sylville Smith. Killing Jewish gematria sums to 59. Sylville and Pythagorean gematria sums to 44. Kill in simple English gematria sums to 44. So does shooting, officer, sheriff, trooper, department, Wisconsin. Only 2 states have gematria of 44, Wisconsin and Georgia. And the day after the Wisconsin shooting, August 14th, they said there was a shooting in Georgia. Hello, Brett Favre, the 33rd overall pick on the 33rd parallel by Atlanta, traded to the Packers in Wisconsin and Georgia. And that's not a coincidence. The NFL, the media, it's all run by this same gang that does all their stuff by the numbers. The mother of the victim is Mildred Haynes. M is the 13th letter, H is the 8th, 13-8. The shooting was on August 13th, 13/8. Mildred Haynes sums to 137, just like Authority, Washington, D.C., American Meridian, again 137, the 33rd prime. Black Lives, Federal, Police, Race War. The last name Smith in gematria also sums to 33, Sylville Smith in Sherman. So now let's transition and talk about Sheriff Clarke, who's in Milwaukee County where this shooting happened. Sheriff Clarke recently at the Republican National Convention, speaking out against Black Lives Matter, speaking for police. In his remarks when he did his first press conference, he emphasized multiple times that the shooting was at Sherman and 43rd. Now, I've seen it reported other places in the media that the shooting was at Sherman and 44th. We know what 44 is. Sylville equals 44, shooting 44, kill 44, officer 44. But when he gave his press conference, and he said it several times, Sherman and 43rd, he wanted to make sure everyone knew where the shooting was. Sherman and 43rd. Sherman 33, Civil War 43. Sherman was also a war general for the South. But anyway, Sherman and 43rd, with all of these shooting hoaxes, they're trying to bring about a race war. They're trying to bring about a divide in the people. David A. Clarke Jr., the sheriff's birth name, gematria of 119, like all-seeing eye, like Star of David. Think about how the Star of David is the same symbol that is most sheriff badges. That's no coincidence. It's because this is a Jewish nation. This nation was created by Jewish banker tyrants. It's always been run by Jewish banker tyrants. Their symbolism is everywhere. There's a reason the Star of David was on the currency in 1913. Nearly a half century before the creation of Israel. His birthday, Sheriff Clarke, he's born August 21st, 1956. Interesting birthday in numerology. Gematria of 104, like Jerusalem, like the date the nation was established, and he is very much a Zionist agent, willing to work for this gang, sell out the American people for his own benefit. He's currently 59 years old. He's about to turn 60 the day the Olympics end. The word police equals 60. He's a police, a sheriff. The most hateful word for black people sums to 60. There's a reason Kobe Bryant finished with 60 points to close out his career this year, and it has everything to do with this. His death was completely synced up with the death of Moses Malone, who died 213 days earlier. Black men often killed by the number 213. Moses Malone dead at age 60, 213 days before Kobe finished his career with 60 points. Moses Malone Drafted out of high school to the pros, the first man in the NBA by Utah. Kobe Bryant finished his career against Utah. Kobe's also from Philly, where Moses Malone played most of his career. Police and that hateful word for black Americans share gematria. He's currently 59. Again, the other number stamped all over black people. Sylville Smith equals 59, kill. This shooting comes in his own backyard as his final days at age 59 close out. Notice he's the 64th sheriff of Milwaukee County. He assumed office March 19th, 2002. That's a date with 44 numerology. Again, sheriff, officer, trooper, military, all these words have gematria 44. That's the day he became sheriff. That date can also be written 19/3, which is a lot like 193, the 44th prime number. Sheriff in Wisconsin. Georgia and Wisconsin, the only two states, shootings back-to-back days. The officer killed there was Smith. Tim Smith. With regards to him being the 64th sheriff, civil rights equals 64. The Civil Rights Act happened in 64. Barack Hussein Obama equals 64. Think about how Obama was elected the 44th president 44 years after the Civil Rights Act in 2008. The face of the Civil Rights Act, Martin Luther King Jr., killed on 4/4, a lot like 44. This sheriff, when he was at the Republican convention, they emphasized this word, dead wrong. Sheriff Clarke says Clinton is dead wrong when it comes to causes of gun violence. Dead wrong has gematria 46, like hate crime, like Baton Rouge, like Dallas police, like chaos, like hero, like Dallas, Texas, also like Milwaukee. I've been talking about how they're coding 46 into these shootings because the police are trying to protect themselves from hate crimes. That's part of the Blue Lives Matter bill. Milwaukee has the gematria. Again, Blue Lives Matter and Sheriff Clarke, a perfect sync. It was Louisiana that first signed the Blue Lives Matter bill. They signed it on the 147th day of the year. Police in Jewish gematria equals 147, a bill to protect police on the 147th day of the year. Again, that was a date with 67 numerology, matching the gematria of Blue Lives Matter. The killing in Louisiana that came the same day as Philando Castile. Remember that news came July 6th, 6/7. Alton Sterling equals 67, Philando Castile equals 67, just like Blue Lives Matter, just like Freemasonry. The next day, 7/7 in Dallas, there was a retaliatory shooting at a Black Lives Matter protest. Police officer equals 77, police department equals 77, September 11th, written out as words, equals 77. It was the worst loss of life on 7/7 since September 11th for a police department, and it was all bullshit news. Part of these staged shootings that's about agenda. You know, you get the faked shootings of these young men, then you get the retaliatory killing the next day, and then you see how more cities, more states considering the Blue Lives Matter legislation to further militarize their police. David A. Clarke Jr., the small way, also sums to 56 like Black Lives Matter. The governor in Louisiana who signed the bill is the 56th governor of the state. Not a coincidence. So, in the time of this Milwaukee news, what do we get? We get a story about the First Lady's brother being hired with the Milwaukee basketball team. This story comes August 15th, 2 days after the shooting, in the middle of the protests. We get a story about the 44th president's wife's brother getting hired by the Milwaukee basketball team. And I'm telling you, this is not a coincidence. This is how this gang operates. Everything's rituals, tributes by the numbers. And in their sick minds, this is part of the ritual. His name, Craig Robinson, in gematria sums to 144. That's a number that has a lot to do with killing. Many presidential assassinations by this number. Barack Obama himself was born 144 days before Christmas Day 1961, where an episode aired on the Andy Griffith Show with predictive programming about the assassination of JFK, who was killed in the middle of Dealey Plaza, named after a 33rd degree Freemason, on 11/22. JFK was the 44th term president. He died on the first day of Sagittarius. Sagittarius has gematria of 144. If you write out 44, it sums to 144. If you write out April 4th, it sums to 144. MLK assassinated on that date. William Henry Harrison, the first president to die in office, died on that date. Again, Wisconsin equals 44. Sylville equals 44. You write out 44, it sums to 144. A number connected to killing. Craig Robinson, who happens to have this name gematria, gets plugged in the city of Milwaukee in the time of this. The date of his hiring, also a date with 59 numerology. Negro, slave, Obamacare equals 59. All part of the sick joke. Part of a slave system requiring you to participate in fraudulent health insurance. You know, you have to participate or you'll be fined. First black president gives us that bill, Obamacare. It's all part of a sick joke. So, related note, yesterday, this was up on the front page of CNN, this story about the killing of this English footballer. I'm not sure where he was born. I guess he was born in the United Kingdom, but he had played the, European football career over there, Dalian Atkinson. Dalian Atkinson dies after being tasered in Telford by police. This story was up on CNN's front page yesterday at the same time we're getting the headlines about, what it's like to be black in Milwaukee in light of this other killing. So let me show you everything that stands out here to me about this. Dalian Robert Atkinson, his first name, has gematria of 96. Freemason equals 96. Dalian Atkinson has gematria of 72, and so does the word tasered. Supposedly, Dalian Atkinson tasered to death. Dalian Atkinson equals tasered, a perfect match. Dalian Atkinson in simple English gematria also sums to 144. This number is so often connected to killing. His birthday is March 21st in the UK. That's written 21/3, a lot like 213. The number is so often connected to the killing of young black men. In these shootings that have emerged, the phrase that has come with it is hands up, don't shoot, gematria of 213, just like Black History Month. In Baton Rouge, the shooting was recently blamed on a guy who was active on Twitter, Convos with Cosmo, 213. So many people in this history who have died early have died by this number. Tupac Shakur is a shining example. His final album came out February 13th, 2/13, the 44th day of the year. He died exactly 213 days later, September 13th, 13/9. Tupac Shakur equals 139. Freemasonry equals 139. Earlier this year, Moses Malone died on that date, September 13th, 2015. 213 days before Kobe Bryant scored 60. From his birthday to his date of death, 147 days. Police in Jewish gematria equals 147. The Blue Lives Matter bill came out on the 147th day of the year. This man was tasered to death by police, supposedly. If he really was tasered to death, it was very purposeful, it was very planned, it was very orchestrated by the numbers. But what I really think is going on here is another athlete who's retired is now participating in a psychological operations, faking his death, possibly disappearing off to wherever. One of those two things is going on. Faking the deaths by the numbers or being ritually murdered. I know a lot of these athletes participate in these psychological operations in the United States and abroad, so it's not too far out there to think that. The date he was born had a life lesson number of 48. He died at age 48. Hoax equals 48. Propaganda equals 48. Evil equals 48. Illuminati equals 48. The date he died, August 15th, a date with 59 numerology. So not only was he tasered by police, he was killed on a date with 59 numerology. This is in the UK. Again, Freemasonry, Zionism, it is the one world order. Other headlines, Milwaukee reckons with violence. Gematria of 330, a lot like 33 for Sherman, for race war, for police. Again, if you missed my first video, this outbreak happened late August 13th, when the Jewish holy day, remembering the tragedies, the destructions of the temple, known as the 9th of Av, the 9th day of the 11th month of their calendar, or in their calendar, Tisha B'Av, having Jewish gematria of 9/11. Think about what 911 represents. You know, it's our emergency dialing code. A lot of people don't realize in 1968, World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code, and George W. Bush, the president during September 11, 2001, graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. Bush's birthday is 68 days before September 11th. Tisha B'Av, 911, the Zionist Jews were in New York documenting the attack on September 11th. They had foreknowledge. Again, this state, this nation, it's a Zionist creation. August 13th is also the day that is typically the 225th day of the year. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where it happened, equals 225. This year it was a leap year, the 226th day of the year. 226 is the number that's paired with 93 in this study, and 93 is the number for Saturn, the keeper of time, and also 93, the number for propaganda. This was organized propaganda looking to provoke a response in the real population. You know, they need people to act out so that they can arrest them, add them to their prison industrial complex, create excuses for further militarizing the police, spending more money on taxpayer dollars on police instead of education, quality food. In the article, they talk about how the first thing they burned was the BP gas station. Gematria 44, just like Wisconsin, just like shooting, just like officer. If you add up the divisors of 44, they also sum to 84. British Petroleum equals 84. United States of America, 84. The Twilight Zone, 84. Obama equals 84. Obama's born on 8/4, August 4th. The 44th president with the 84 connections, the divisors of 44 sum to 84. Our president is an actor agent, and so are many other people in the media, from the news commentators to these people they put on that represent the police departments. We have a lot of puppets selling us out. Let me also remind you about this article from a year ago. Freddie Gray's neighborhood, just 42% of the residents in Freddie Gray's neighborhood are employed. Freddie equals 42, the most hateful word for black people, 42, February 42. Down here, first stat, just 42% of residents are employed compared to the national average of 59%. The other number stamped on black people, 59, Negro, slave, blues. If you write out 5, it equals 42. If you write out 9, it equals 42. 5, 9, 59, 42. These numbers have relationships. You know, Truth Seeker, I've been making these videos, these blog posts since 2013, and to date, not a single one of them has reached enough people. You know, there's millions of people who are being hurt by this news. They don't realize it's fake. They don't realize it's here to scare them, to intimidate them, to provoke them. This is why I do this work, so people can see what's going on. Since 2013, I've shown the exact same thing hundreds of times. All of these stories are the exact same way. If you want to help stop this, you have to help share my message. If people criticize you, say you're crazy, you're ridiculous, just show them all the countless examples. How many times can they deny it before they realize it's the truth and not a coincidence? Everybody has a breaking point. Until next time, Truth Seekers.